I was an administrative assistant, and I was getting frustrated with, like, okay, I work on paperwork, and I come in, the same paperwork's on my desk the next day, and it just is
your inbox is
never ending. And it
ending.
occurred to me, I was just like, why am I so not enjoying it? And I was like, I'm so unfulfilled here, because I wasn't helping anybody, I wasn't doing anything, and I had an interaction with a police officer, my car got broken into, and so I was like, oh, interesting.
This is new. Let me explore this.
And
it had nothing to do with that. It was a cute guy, right?
No, it wasn't at all.
He's like, wait, uh-oh.
And so...
she does have a background in people in uniform, so...
Yes, I know. That's
I love a man in uniform.
My family's always been in
I will never date anyone I'm working with, but I love a man in uniform. I'll say that. So...
She's gonna date a sheriff.
She's gonna... right down the street.
Well, my brother has told me not to date anyone in the military, and everyone's like, don't date people at work, and I'm like, all right, well, I gotta find someone in another department or like a firefighter.
There you
go. Ooh, firefighter, then you can make fun of him.
Yeah.
And wear the pants.
So anyway, so that kind of planted a little bit bug, and then I started thinking about it, and then I was talking to the first person that I told, I was like, I'm kind of thinking about this, and it was my mom, and as I was telling her about it, I think I just shot her a text, and I was like, what would I say? What would you say if I told you I was thinking about being a police officer? And she was like, I think that'd be great. And I'm like, whoa! What? And I was shocked, because she had, like, there was no surprise, no, like, where did that come from?
Right.
Like she's been thinking it this whole time.
And so when I then called her, and she's like, well, there was that time in middle school where you thought about joining the military, and I never understood why you turned away from that. Like, you like, you're all about service, you're all about helping people, you're all about...
So she knew you better than you
apparently. And so, and then as I was talking to her about my reasons and whatnot, part of the Girl Scout... I told you, everything comes back to Girl Scout. Part of the Girl Scout promise ends in and make the world a better place. And I'm talking to her, and I'm just like, I want to make the world a better place. And I'm like, whoa, I've been brainwashed. But as I said that, I'm like, no, that's cool.
Theory is so far off.
It's not at all.
And your
scary.
mom was the leader.
Yeah.
What do you think of Scientology?
and so my mom, as I was saying, I realized, I'm just like, okay, I want a career where I'm making the world a better place. I'm doing something even in just my small area of it.
Wow.
And here's the thing. I didn't mind the paperwork of my job. It was just the monotony of only the paperwork. So I was, because somebody then later was like, you do realize that they do a lot of report writing and stuff. I'm like, I don't mind that as long as there's both. I want both. I don't think I'd want to go all the time, but I also don't want to write all the time. So yay, both. And, so yeah, I started looking into it. First person I talked to was my mom, and then I talked...
how many cops have described it that way.
Yay, I get both. None. I can almost tell you, none. This is the naive part of her.
I would pretty much say
This is the part that her training officer is saying, you're kind of naive.
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, Kimmy, yeah. So... my second person I talked to was my jiu-jitsu instructor, who is a police officer. So he had some advice, and he pointed me towards another black belt that we both know from Grandmaster Anna Steller's school, who had recently gone through the academy, and he was like, talk to her because she's female, gone through it more recently. And I had dinner with her, talked to her, and then pretty much from there I was like, yeah, I think I want to do it. And you know, it's weird because it almost, when I tell the story, I always feel like I have to defend that, like, this wasn't on a whim, because it seems like it happened really fast. Like, I think I had I interacted with that police officer in February. In March, I decided I wanted to go for it. I went on a trip at the beginning of April where I talked to my uncle, who's in the who just retired from being a police officer, like, this year. And I had a long conversation with him. And after that conversation, I was like, yes, doing it. So I came home. I signed up for the prerequisite tests you have to take. And then as soon as I got those scores, I turned in 4 applications the next day. And I got hired.
Academies?
I got hired.
For city states.
Department. I applied directly to departments. And I got hired 2 months later. And it was fast. It was really fast. Like, everybody told me it would take me way longer. Because there's people that apply to departments for years, and it takes them that long. I mean, we had one person in our academy class that I think was trying to get in for, like, 8 years. And so it was, like, 2 months. Got hired. I turned in my 2 weeks' notice that day. Started with the department 2.5 weeks later. had my academy orientation that week.
Wow.
And started the academy a month later. So
that's crazy.
It was crazy. So yeah, it made the academy, it was really weird because every single day I'd wake up and be like, dude, a year ago this wasn't even an idea. And I'm being tased. What is happening?
So have people actually said, seems like you did it on a whim? Or do you think that it feels like such a whim that you have to defend it before anyone can say anything?
Because I put a lot of thought in it. Like, I put research when I was like, oh, this is an idea, and I
3 months later,
I don't think of
academy.
it. I don't think of it as a whim because I did put a lot of thought into it, and I made the solid decision of yes, I think this is what I want to do, and it matches everything I want.
I think
for my life.
No, it's awesome.
Since then, it's been great. I got hired. The academy was great. There wasn't a moment I can't say there wasn't a moment I didn't enjoy. But
you're still green right now. You're still on the honeymoon. So
yeah, I'm still on the honeymoon of it. But like,
and also you're naive, so it's okay.
Yeah. So it's been great, but like.
Wait till she gets punched or sucker punched or whatever.
I was telling someone, I was like, I honestly can't think of anything I would enjoy more than this right now, and so as long as that is still the case, I'll keep doing this.
Well, then the other question arises because of
that's good.
The way the climate is for police officers. Yeah. How are you doing with that?
I knew that going in, and that was one of the things that when I had that conversation with my uncle, he brought up. He lives in Missouri, so he was a street cop in Kansas City, like during just like I think the 80s or something when things just weren't good for cops there. So he had a lot to say about that, and he directed my attention towards like how is your family going to feel about it, because you might be okay with it, but like think about your mom, think about all these people. And then I talked to my mom, and she's like, I'm happiest if you're doing what makes you happy. And I'm like, okay, cool, awesome.
Why didn't you do this before?
And so I knew that going in. I was like, I know there's a part of society that does not like us, and there was a motivating factor for me in that I know I'm not going to change everybody's mind, but if I can have as many interactions with people as possible where they walk away thinking, oh, that cop wasn't so bad. Right. Maybe slowly that'll change the world. Yeah. And like I said, make the world a better place. It doesn't have to be huge.
Change one mind at a time.
Yeah, my brother always loved, there's a poem that he wrote that was called It's All About the Ripples, and he has always reiterated that. It's like, you start just a little thing, and maybe that person takes a ton of interactions to change their mind, but if they have one interaction, it's like, oh, that cop wasn't so bad, and then they have another one, oh, well, that cop wasn't so bad either. And the more that happens, I mean, unfortunately, they said this in the academy all the time, it takes, 10 good interactions with a cop to make up for, like, one bad one, because everybody, it gets lumped together. And the bad ones are the ones people remember. But I'd like to think that I am a good cop, will continue to be a good cop, and hopefully every, or at least most of the interactions that I have will be positive, and people will see that.
What's your thought on these bad cops? Because that's got to be in the back of your head all the time, isn't it?
It's frustrating, just like and I get frustrated looking at, I think you both saw a couple months ago, I was like, I'm done with Facebook for a while, because I was done with all the comments, but here's the thing is, that's the same in every profession. Unfortunately, cops get so much more media attention from it, but like, there's a few bad apples in every profession. There's bad doctors, there's bad teachers, there's bad everything.
And I think that's an important thing to say, because you're right. Even in the simplest things, you are going to have some bad peoples no matter what. It could be at a department store. You still have these jerks who think...
that one guy.
Well, and it's... and I don't mean this as a political thing, but just like even you look at the opposite side of it, the whole Black Lives Matter thing, and you've got people that maybe they want legitimate change and they're trying to go about it the right way, and then even they've got the bad apples, and then they're saying, hey, don't judge us based on these people, and we're like,
I always think back to pit bulls.
Yes. Same thing.
Yeah. Mostly because I like pit bulls.
They've gotten such a bad rap.
Right.
So,
I love pit bulls.
Yeah, they're wonderful dogs, but they get that, oh my god, they're so scary. You couldn't leave somebody.
Yeah. It is what it is. And it's been weird coming into it at this time, because obviously I started on the streets like 2 weeks before the horrible incident of George Floyd.
So do you find that you're having to like tiptoe around when you do see your work, when you do have to come up on something?
Sometimes I think everyone is a lot more hesitant right now. I've seen that
because you got to be gunshot, right?
We're being told to a certain extent. There's situations where if there's a way for a call to be handled over the phone or just not, we're minimizing contact in some ways so that things don't flare up, and certainly because of all the like defund the police and stuff like that, I think there's a certain element of like, hey, if it's not a police matter and we know it's not a police matter,
we'll send somebody else.
Let's not go, because then if for some reason it escalates and that's
turns
how
ugly
we end up in this
yeah.
situation. So that's all way above my head, those decision making things, but I think at least my department is trying to do their best to like still help the community and keep doing what we've been doing, while at the same time keeping safeguard and keeping us in mind as like, hey, we don't want you arrested, we don't want you sued, we don't want you put in these positions when you don't have to be, or when it's not our job.
And I'm going to be truthful with you, because that's why we wanted you on the show. When you were asking us, what am I going to talk about? We already had the other. We're going to have you talk about this whole policing, because
I'm innocent in this whole thing. I don't know what you're talking about. I want to talk about Star Wars.
But I think of myself as a Jedi, just without mind control powers.
There you go.
Although I don't know,
I think you do have some of those Jedi powers.
Yeah, I think so too. But you are stuck between two Sith, so
yeah, so, not today. But no, I love the idea that this is something you pursued and that you're actually there and doing it, because, I do security, but even before that, I was a security director at a hotel, and before that, I almost became a cop. I also almost became a firefighter because I wanted to do something along that lines, but I got free plane tickets, so I said, I'm going to do this job instead. Yeah. But that was something that I often thought about, because of where I was when I first got out of school. I was doing security right away, and I ended up at a hotel, and at that hotel, it was one of those luxury hotels, and DEA used to come by all the time. DEA, Secret Service, because it was such a and I would make friends with those guys, and they're like, Rico, you do really well here. You should join us and this and that. And I thought about it a few times, but I was like, dude, I don't want to get shot by a 12-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And
that's the thing is, you really, I think anyone who gets into this, if they can't make that solid decision of, yes, this is what I want to do, and that's,
don't do it.
And that's why I don't consider it a whim, because I knew that, and I actively thought about that. I was like, I don't want to do it on a whim and then quit halfway through the academy, or quit through FTO, or quit through, whatever. I was like, if I'm going to do this, I need to be committed to it. And I saw that especially in the academy, it's kind of one of those, like, you have to know that that's what you want to do, because otherwise, why are you
gonna wash
taking... Did you see people wash out and drop out?
We had one drop out in the first week. We had another fail out after the first... Our academy class actually had very, very low numbers.
What's low?
Very low dropout. We only had two. Our entire academy class. I know, like, the class behind us, they lost like 12.
Wow.
Mostly, as far as I know, after the first couple weeks, nobody quit, but like fail out rates. But the thing is, like, you have to want to fight for it. And even now, I'm in training, and I've been remediated in training, and they've extended me a couple times. I just got approved for phase 3 of training.
Wow.
Phase 2 was supposed to be 5 weeks. It ended up being 16. So
why is that?
I was struggling with stuff, so it's supposed to be 5 weeks. In that time, I started struggling a little bit with some stuff, so they extended me 3 weeks. In that 3 weeks, they were like, you're improving, but you're not ready for phase 3 yet, so let's start you over on phase 2 with a different trainer. Wow. Started with that trainer, and then that got extended a week just because he was sick 1 week, so I...
So it was the trainer's fault. It wasn't yours.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
they gave you the right trainer.
Well, no, because everything is my fault, according to him.
According to them, it's your fault.
Oh my god, he didn't like the flavor of his drink one night, and he's like, "It's your fault." I'm like, you picked it. But yes, it's my fault. I will take the blame. So, although he said that after when I'm no longer his trainee, it's no longer my fault. So as of 4:00 this morning, it's no longer my fault.
Well, there you go. Life is good again.
But that's the thing is, they all told me, like, the thing was, when I was being told I was remediating or that it was being extended, everybody was like, it's not a big deal. Lots of people do this, but the biggest thing everyone said with training is that if you get in your head about the mess ups, you can just spiral. And I started that spiral for sure. Like, I had 2 bad days that just whoop, and so for about 2 weeks, I was really, really struggling, and that's why I ended up being remediated and everything. And I came out of it, but when I was talking to this last trainer about it, and I was like, I'm so glad I came out of it, and he's like, not everybody does. That's the thing, is that like, you have to really want to fight for it and gain back, because and he's like, if you fall into that spiral, you have to physically just stop yourself and be like, no, I want this, and I'm going to fight for it, and I'm going to turn this around. And he was
kudos to you. That's really impressive.
You're constantly being evaluated then.
Yeah. We get a daily evaluation.
Wow.
That has about 20 points, or like 20 different categories that are graded 1 through 7. And then a narrative portion.
Science, history.
No. So there's like 3 of them are related to report writing. So it's like spelling, grammar, whatever, and report writing.
See? You would have failed.
Content and report writing, time it takes to write. And then there's like officer safety, command presence, control of, physical control of situations. Like, if you have to go hands-on, how well did you handle yourself? And like I said, there's like 20. And then they're graded 1 through 7. And it's not graded on, like, how did you do for you. It's graded on how did you do compared to what a competent solo officer would be.
Wow.
So
that's funny.
I'm on training. I don't know anything. So of course I'm going to fail everything. Yeah. So literally, they told me that day 1. They're like, dude, your scores are all going to be like 1s for the first like half of FTO. You know that. Like, you just get that in your head. That doesn't mean you're not doing well. It just means you're not a solo officer yet. But it's so hard to just see all the
low numbers. Yeah, it just kind of.
And so 1 through 3 is unacceptable. 4 and 5 are acceptable, and then like 6 and 7 exceeds expectations or whatever. And so anything 1 through 3 gets explained in a narrative portion, which means that the only thing being explained and like laid out for because of course the trainer submits it, I have to acknowledge it, gets sent to the training sergeant and then lieutenant and just up the chain. And so anything the only thing that's being explained and like told about what I did is the bad stuff.
Wow.
And it always reads so much worse. So like, I'm reading something, I'm like, it didn't feel that bad when it happened, but then you're reading it and you're like, that just sounds so bad. And yeah, it's stressful.
She's like, gee, I would fire myself.
How do I keep this job?
Yeah, exactly. So it's, and it's every day. And of course, you're talking about every call, you talk about it after and hear the pros and the cons. And, obviously the cons are what we're focusing on because that's what we need to fix. So it does get exhausting to continuously.
So you're getting better though?
Yes, I am.
You think you are?
Yeah.
You're improving.
I like to think that. I was told this morning that I get to move on to 3rd phase, so that's exciting.
Yay!
Yeah. So,
and you're in it for the long haul, so
yeah.
Buck up.
Yeah. So it was good to hear, and especially after 5 weeks that turned into 16, it was kind of like, oh, thank God I'm not being remediated again, because all week I was looking at my trainer like, are you recommending me for phase 3?
Please.
And he kept
I got the right flavor this time.
He was like, as far as, I'm like, he's like, unless something changes in the next 2 days, unless something changes in the next day. I'm just like.
In other words, if you F up really bad.
Yeah, I would have had to really screw up because I had been showing improvement, thankfully. But yeah.
Oh, that must be aggravating though.
How was the shooting range?
Oh, I loved it. And it was kind of cool because
Isn't it so cathartic though?
I've never shot a whole lot, but when I had shot, it was always with my brother who is in the Army, and then my brother-in-law who was a firearms instructor in the Marines. So
there you go.
All the times I had been shooting, I had been.
Like she's almost geared for this.
She has all the backing needed for every aspect of being a cop.
Exactly.
The patience, the teaching, the firearms instruction, the tactical instruction, waving a baton.
Probably what I got. Yeah. So I had. When I had gone shooting, even though it wasn't a lot, I was always taught properly. So when I got to the range during the academy, the first day, 3 different instructors separately came up and were like, "Were you in the military?" I'm like, "No, just trained by military people." But
See?
Same difference.
Yeah. So I love shooting. I go to the range as much as I can, which...
you're going to have to take us.
What's your accuracy rate?
Well, I always hit the target, so...
I love to shoot.
There's that.
Yeah.
I haven't shot in a while, but I like shooting.
Yeah, I haven't shot in a while either.
I like sports that you can continuously improve and never get perfect at.
Right.
So, I mean, the thing with shooting for me is like, all right, well, if you start getting really perfect groupings at one distance, just make the distance further. There's always a way to improve it. So
Right.
I started that
Change
with
the weapon.
So with Girl Scouts.
You guys shot in the Girl Scouts?
No.
Oh, sorry.
Like we always did archery at
Right.
camp, so I love archery. I have my dad's compound bow, and
Wow.
Really?
So,
What's it rated at?
I think it's like a 45-pound bow or something like that. I haven't shot it in so long. So
she does it all, folks.
I always say I have more hobbies than I can count, and it's really weird because sometimes I'm sitting in my apartment and I'm looking around, and there's just such an array of different types of stuff.
I would like to go to an apartment just so I can look at all the other things.
I bet you one thing you won't find is a crowing machine.
Sewing machine?
You don't do the crocheting stuff, right?
There is a bag of knitting.
She knits.
I knit.
I stand corrected.
I knit.
She
sit in my
doesn't
living
do
room.
needlepoint though.
There's a closet full of puzzles
and
board games and art supplies. I've got my
Wait,
workout
are you
equipment. I've got
You're not married.
I have my record collection.
25.
I've got my vinyl collection, my record player. I've got my
That is pretty cool. I saw that in a picture.
Martial arts stuff. I've got.
This is my martial arts corner. This is my music corner. Arts and crafts is over here. All the deadly weapons on this side.
Yeah.
Wow, you're very, very eclectic.
Too many hobbies. Yeah.
That's
eclectic
cool,
person.
And you like to sing because Danny's dying to have you on the karaoke booth.
Oh yes, you were the.
So I'm
going to
tell you something about Danny's house. Right, he's got this garage, and he's got this 80-inch giant movie screen.
Really?
It's probably even more. It's 120.
That was like 120.
Yeah, 120.
Wow.
I mean,
it's a projector.
It's a projector.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Projector screen.
But he also has movie theater seats in there.
Yes.
And he has them stagnant so that they actually go up. And then he does karaoke. It's outrageous.
Yeah, he has a whole sound system. His son has a
mine
sound booth. I mean,
mine is literally like a little karaoke machine where and what started that one was that when I was in that downward spiral in FTO, I was getting really frustrated with myself, and
So you just started karaoke.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd done it a few times in the past. Like at my grandma's 80th birthday, I sang a song for her. And
but on your 2-week spiral, I'm
I've
gonna get him.
I've always enjoyed singing. The only time I've ever done it in public, pretty much, was Girl Scout camp and like for family. And it's funny because I never sang much in public. When stuff like that comes up, everybody's like, "You can sing," and I remember because at my dad's funeral,
karaoke machine
my sisters and I sang a song.